Welcome to Dialogue, and thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Brown, Dean of Ohio State's John Glenn College of Public Affairs, and I'll be moderating our conversation today. Before we get started, let's run through a few quick Zoom housekeeping notes. First, all attendees are in listen and view only mode, which means you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you. Second, closed captions are available for this webinar. Click the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen to turn captions on or off. Please note that this program is being recorded. We will take questions throughout our conversation, so please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions during the program. If someone posts a question that you like, you can upvote it by clicking the thumbs up icon beneath the question. Amy Palermo, WOSU Public Media's Chief Content Director for Education, is here in the studio with me, and she will monitor the Q&A and read your questions to our panelists during the program. Now a little about the series and what to expect today. Dialogue is a collaboration between WOSU Public Media and the John Glenn College of Public Affairs that's developed into a robust speaker series featuring top names in media, politics, and current affairs, discussing the issues affecting our community and our nation. Our topic today is the future of K-12 education, and joining me for our discussion is Dr. Talisa Dixon, Superintendent and CEO of Columbus City Schools, and Paulo De Maria, Ohio's Superintendent of Public Instruction. Welcome, and thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
It's great to be with you, Trevor.
Great. Superintendent Dixon, let's start with you. Columbus City Schools went virtual last spring and when the pandemic began, and have been virtual since. But last Monday was the first day that students in third grade and younger could return to in-person instruction. What was that first day back like for students and for teachers?
Oh, thank you. It was a great day. A lot of smiles we can see through the mask, and the students were ready to come back, we can tell, and also our teachers and staff. We have worked so hard. As you stated, we've been out since March. We knew we were ready to open. We had all the protocols in place. We just had to work out some things, transportation mainly, before we could come back. But it was an exciting day, and all the staff was relieved and said, you know what? We did it. We did what was in best interest of our students, and that's bringing them back for some time with their teachers face to face, even if it was only 2 days per week as planned. But that time is valuable, and a lot of students were looking forward to having that time with their teachers.
So tell us a little bit about that decision to return to in-person instruction. Why did the Columbus City Schools decide to return to in-person instruction for younger students now? What factors changed to indicate that in-person instruction was possible? And how did you decide which grade levels to welcome back to the classroom?
Well, first, as I stated, we've known that in-person learning is the best for all of our students, but we had to make sure that we can do it safely. So one of the main challenges we had is with transportation. The transportation guidelines prohibited us to bring as many students that we wanted back. So, for example, we were normally transporting at least 40 to 50 students per school bus. And now we've been limited to about 20 students as a capacity on transportation. So that limited the number of students that we could transport. So we worked with our charter non-public partners. We have been working for several months to try to figure out how we can bring back, how we could allow some flexibility in scheduling, that we could bring back some of our learners. And we decided that the youngest learners were the ones that we wanted to prioritize. So we prioritized our pre-K through 3 for the first week. And then we brought in our fourth and fifth graders in this week. We also brought our CTE students. This is their second tour. We brought them back for 3 weeks in November. But they're back with us now. And then we identified about 1,000 students with complex needs, and we have those students back with us. So all in all, it was about a little over 20,000, about 24,000 students that we were able to bring back between last week and this week. And unfortunately, we had a snow day today, but the goal was to bring about between 25,000 students back.
So I have to apologize. You and I spoke the day after you had welcomed students back, the Tuesday after, and that was a snow day as well. And so here we are again talking. I pledge that throughout the winter I will not call you until the snow is all gone, so you can ensure that kids can come back to school.
Yeah, you know what we were saying this morning, said, oh my gosh, the students in cohort A, they last Monday and then yesterday. So the weather is so unpredictable, and it was challenging this morning for a transportation crew.
It's a joy to be here in Ohio.
Yes.
Superintendent DeMaria, so the Columbus City Schools is a large urban district serving over 25,000 families and close to 50,000 students, if not more. In fact, it is the largest school district in Ohio. What's the current situation for other large school districts in Ohio? Has the response to COVID-19 been the same in Cincinnati and Cleveland and other large metro areas?
Well, Trevor, I'm always hesitant to say the same because I think every community brings to this discussion both about how to respond to the pandemic as well as what the educational experience should be configured like. They bring their own perspectives to it. So I think in the major urban areas, you have seen sort of greater, perhaps at the outset, greater concerns about safety. One of the things I've been telling a lot of people lately is we've learned a lot since this pandemic started about classrooms, school buildings, and increasingly the research is showing that when proper safety protocols are followed, classrooms can be among the safest places where people can be. And so, knowing that, I think you're starting to see, accompanying some of the, reductions in cases as well as the vaccination plan that's being rolled out right now, greater levels of comfort in urban areas and more students being brought back.
Talk a little bit about the experience of other kinds of districts, suburban districts, rural districts. You noted that there are differences. What are those key differences, and what explains why some have been able to go back in person and others only now coming back to in-person instruction?
I think at the start of the pandemic, a lot of the differences were, positivity rates. Some of our most rural districts had very, very few cases of COVID. You would talk to people and they would say, well, I don't know anyone in our whole county that has had COVID. And again, that gave people, knowing full well that they could also follow the safety protocols, that they could resume instruction, whether it was full-time, sort of 5 days a week, or in some sort of hybrid configuration. What we saw then, however, was that those schools and districts also began to finally see outbreaks. And if you recall, for those of you who follow the governor's press conferences, that map grew increasingly red in terms of the numbers of counties that were experiencing higher levels of positivity. And that caused some of those districts to sort of step back, take stock, try to, understand what was happening. And many of them either moved to more hybrid models where they could do more sanitizing and so forth and so on, or have smaller cohorts of students in their school buildings, or some of them went to more of a remote posture. So a lot of it depends on sort of, and I think, I tip my hat to the governor for allowing local communities to be the primary decision makers about these kinds of issues, because they can balance all the different things that come into play, the circumstances by virtue of their local health departments, what their teachers are seeing and hearing, what their parents and community is wanting, and come to a consensus about what makes the most sense in those areas.
So this is a question for both of you, although we'll start with Superintendent Dixon. So President Biden has prioritized returning students to the classroom, and we just heard make reference to Governor DeWine, and he said he wants to bring all students back to the classroom by March 1st, which is not that far away. What will it take to get more students back to in-person instruction outside of preventing snow? Superintendent Dixon, what do you see as the key factors that need to be in place for more students to come back?
Yeah. So right now we have those guidelines. So we have can only bring in, our students have to be socially distanced. So, we have large cohorts of students. Our average class size is between 22 and 26, and some are larger. So you still have to be able to socially distance your students. So in order to do that, we've had to break our students up in cohorts. So that's why we have to have class come Monday and Tuesday, and then the other class comes in Thursday and Friday. So for us, we would still be challenged by those social distancing guidelines, and that will prevent us from bringing more students in, especially 5 days a week. But we're hopeful that as our staffs and our public get these vaccines, that we're hopeful that we're going to see some changes in our guidelines and allow us to transport more students on the buses, and then also be able to bring more students back in the classroom. But that is going to be a major decision maker for us, being able to bring students back and bring them back safely.
Superintendent DeMaria, what from as you span the whole state and see all the different kinds of districts, what are the kinds of key factors that you think will drive that ability to come back, targeting, say, March 1st?
Yeah, when I get this question, I remind people that a lot of school districts are already back. If you go to our webpage, www.education.ohio.gov/reset and restart, you will see a map. We update this map every week. The governor often uses it on his press conferences, that shows which districts are either back sort of full day, 5 days a week, which ones are in some sort of hybrid program, and which ones are in fully remote. And you'll have seen that the numbers that are really in kind of that full remote mode are pretty small. And in some ways that number has been relatively small, although sometimes a small number also includes our most urban districts, which have the highest density and largest numbers of students. But by and large, districts have either and from the governor's perspective, return to school also includes hybrid models. So there have been a lot that have already, sort of met that standard. And we think the conditions are emerging that allow those who are still in full remote to bring more and more of those students back. As Superintendent Dixon so well articulates, our educators, our administrators are very creative in understanding ways to both address the safety protocols, distancing, and so forth, while at the same time bringing kids for those valuable face-to-face instructional experiences that are so important to their well-being.
So in just a minute, I'm going to turn to Amy and see if there are audience questions. So if you haven't jumped on the chat, please do so. My guess is that this is a topic that's important to many. But before we get there, I want to ask just another set of questions to the superintendents, and then we'll turn it over to your questions for a bit. So both of you, as you think about the challenge of getting those students who are not in-person instruction at the moment, what are the greatest needs for them? I want to go a little deeper. Is the challenge at the school level around financial resources? Is it around the willingness of families to send their students back to the classroom? Is it the penetration of the vaccine? What do you think are the key triggers here? Let's start with you, Superintendent Dixon.
Yeah, thank you. I think all of the above. What we are seeing now more than ever is we have to rely more on our families. Prior, students knew the routine. During the school year, you get on a bus, you get ready, you go to school, you learn, you come home, and you do homework and go back. And now we are seeing where we're going to have to focus more on the families and have the family help us, help their students to stay focused, to stay engaged in the work. And their voice is important. And I think that is key for us to understand what families are saying and what they're facing. And what we've had to do more is more family surveys. So we're asking our families, how could we help? How, what are their needs? And that's something that we, at least since I've been here, we've not done a lot of that. And I think we haven't done a lot of that in public education at all. We've not really reached out and say, what do families need? How can we have our families as kind of co-architects a little bit of this? How can we have them help us help their students? And once we be able to get a clear understanding of what that means for all of our families, regardless of your zip codes, I think we have a better grasp of how we can help our students. There is a disconnect. There is a lack of trust. And all of that just didn't happen in our K-12 setting. It happened outside of our K-12 setting for various factors. Even we talk about health disparities, right? So I've been frustrated when I see my colleagues and their students going back, and I've had to wait months for my students to go back. And it's something that's not in my students' control. It's just other factors that we have to work with other entities to make sure that our students have those same opportunities. And our teachers have done a wonderful job. They've come in and we pivoted quickly to this online platform. We found ways to make lessons come alive through this virtual space, but it does not take the place of that in-person learning that all of our students need. And I think we're going to see, this is going to be the future of education. We're going to see these models really come alive in very different ways. And I'm looking forward to Columbus being a leader in really showing that we can do this. We can have these different models for our students, engage our parents, and really be bold and innovative in our approach to educating students.
Trevor, I'll build on that because I think Talisa makes a great point. I think one of the fantastic developments coming out of the pandemic is this increased connection between education and parents. And we saw it right from the get-go, because the only way to kind of keep parents tuned in, keep them aware, help them understand what their students were being expected to do was for greater, teacher, parent, school parent encounters. And I saw so much of that being reflected, even on social media, sometimes just giving kids encouragement by teachers, sort of parading through neighborhoods and showing that connection, talking to parents by phone, providing additional resource materials for parents, opportunities for them to learn how some of the functionality works and their role in supporting the educational experience for their children. I hope that continues as part of the future of K-12 education, because I really think it shows that there's a powerful point of leverage that can be established. And a parent has always been the first and most important teacher of children, and we just need to grab that and run with that more. In the past, that parent communication has been kind of unidirectional. Things would go home, information would flow to the parent, and not much feedback has come back. But now there's more of an exchange, and it's a two-way street. I think that's also illustrative of what we're going to see for students. Right now, students are coming back, and every one of them is kind of in a different place. And so, as Superintendent Dixon said, teachers are incredibly astute, and they're paying attention to the individual needs of each student. Some of that is being assisted by some of the assessments that they do locally, either as an individual teacher or as part of a program at the district level. And that helps them identify where each student is and what that student might need to continue to achieve success. And so I see the part of the future being a lot more customized, a lot more personalized approaches. Where is this student? What are the supports this student needs for particular subject areas to reach that level of mastery and competency that allows them to succeed in future educational pursuits, instead of always treating everybody kind of like they're, here's this group of 22 kids and we're always going to move them together, regardless of whether they're all mastering the content. We have to get a little more nuanced, because ultimately that's going to lead to greater student success.
Yeah. And if I could add to that too, I think that approach to that whole child, those social and emotional needs, because our teachers literally are sitting in the living room of our students' homes. So there's no masking what you may see or hear, and it is real for them. And I think our teachers are getting more insights of our families and some of those barriers, as you stated, that we may not have noticed before. So I think to your point, that we have to customize it, because we're going to see that each student and each family needs something different. We have about 3,500 students that are on our digital academy. And many of those students, the most, are thriving on that self-paced. They still need some teacher interaction, because we want students to have that. But I know that customizable approach is going to be the leader. So we would never, I say to our organization, if we go back to what we were prior to this pandemic, then shame on Columbus City Schools. We should be using technology as a lever and using what we've learned, experiences from our families, and really coming together as a community to accelerate us forward, because the community has shown that together we can help our families. Who knew we were going to have a digital divide in the big city of Columbus, right? But we experienced that wow, we were giving out computers and learned that our students didn't have hotspots. And so we have learned a lot from this, but we know that we have been better informed about what our families need. And we're really excited that we're able to customize that with the help of ODE and others to say, wow, this is what our students really need. This is what our parents need. Let's pull these pieces together and really begin to be whole child focused in more ways than we have in the past.
It's exciting to hear this enthusiasm around the learning that's gone on, and I want to come back to some of those things. But I want to turn to Amy to see if we have any questions from our audience.
We do. We have a lot. And I'll follow up on the current topic with the question. Some students and parents have expressed they learned better in the virtual world because distractions were eliminated and educators had more capacity to differentiate instruction. How can we ensure we are leveraging this truth to reimagine public schools for our kids?
I'll start, because I'll just reflect with Superintendent Dixon and applaud her for her statements, because I think it's the same thing I'm hearing in many, many, many places across the state. People are realizing, there's been this debate. A lot of people have been quick to criticize, remote learning. Oh, it hasn't worked, and so forth and so on. But there are some students that really benefited because of the things that your questioner has indicated. And it's worked for them. So let's hold on to that. Let's recognize that and continue offering those kinds of opportunities in all their varieties. There may be a student that can go completely in that direction, and we ought to support those options. There may be a student that needs to sort of split half and half. Some things will work better face-to-face. Others may be perfectly done online, especially if that student, is more able to do that work in the evenings or on the weekends. It affords students, and I always think about high school students in particular, a great deal of flexibility around the learning experience so that they could maybe find time for work-based learning opportunities or other learning experiences that don't always neatly fit into the school day. So I absolutely agree with the questioner. We've learned a lot, and I anticipate seeing lots of opportunities for different modalities of learning to become part of the normal educational experience.
Yes, and to add to that, we're already deciding that this year we were able to get a waiver, thank you to the state, to allow a digital academy. So we already said, oh my gosh, so many of our students have done well on that platform. How can we leverage that and move and accelerate that and have that option moving forward for some of our students who would like that platform? So we have to be thinking about that. But also, I don't want it, it's not all flowery for Columbus City Schools. We've had students who have said to us, I am challenged by working online, and I have 3 younger siblings. A young man, one of our students said, I have 3 younger students. I have to prioritize getting them online, making sure they're engaged. So often he is working later and not as engaged. So we're mindful of that we have to, make sure we're working with our families, customize the options, and know that many families have many students in their homes, and we have to be mindful of that and create something specifically for those families. So we're still learning. We haven't perfected it yet, but so we have some high points and some low points that we're still working through.
So on that, I want to come back to audience questions in a moment, because that was a great question. But you've Superintendent Dixon, you just pointed to the experience has been variable for students. There are some that are thriving in this environment, but there are others who are struggling, lack of ability to access the technology, as you pointed out. Lots of impediments for many. And 2 Ohio State University faculty members just completed a study for the Ohio Department of Education that's just been released, showing that the average achievement on the Ohio 3rd grade English language arts assessment declined by about a quarter of a standard deviation between fall 2019 and then fall 2020. And according to their calculations, this amounts to about a loss of a third of the year in terms of learning. And it's important to point out this is one grade level, one assessment, so that's not necessarily true for every subject and every student. But Superintendent DeMaria, from the state of Ohio's perspective, what's your reaction to that sense that in a key area of learning, there's a third of the year that's slipped away?
Well, yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody was really surprised by those numbers, because I think when we went into full, sort of school building closure mode back in March, the system was not, prepared for continuity of delivering educational experiences in that kind of setting. So now some ended up doing better than others by virtue of any number of circumstances, including access to internet connectivity, access to devices, and the districts and schools' readiness to actually deliver educational instruction. That said, I think it's a reality that we can't ignore. And like many, I think people are quick to go to the average, but it goes back to what we were all saying before: is it's each individual student's needs has to be understood from an academic achievement perspective, from a social emotional growth perspective, and we have to address those needs going forward. So yes, I'm concerned, as I think that concern is shared, but I think administrators and teachers across the enterprise are already contemplating what is the meaning of that information, how is it reflected on an individual child by child basis, and what do we need to do to provide those students with the strongest supports in order to continue to set them up for future success in learning.
Yes, and to add to that, I know there's been years that people have stated that we should not focus on standardized tests, right? We should move away from that. And I believe this pandemic has kind of shown us that for Columbus City Schools, that can't be our focus. So we didn't have, we knew that the test was an option for our students, but we didn't have that many students that actually took the test this time, because we said we're going to offer that test for our students, but we didn't want it to be their first time returning to school since March and coming back and taking a test. So we did ask our families to say, if you wanted your students to engage in this, please bring your students, and they did. But I think more importantly, we've had to shift from this thinking of this Bloom's taxonomy, right? We want our students to learn all of this content and be able to, test and measure we've had to make that shift. And we've had to shift to more, for me as a leader, to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Our students' basic needs were not being met for many of our students. We have about 6,000 students that we're considered vulnerable youth. They're living in foster care, in some shelters. Their needs were not focused on getting a Chromebook out and doing the lessons. They had other immediate needs that we had to help those families address. And we have found students whose families lost their jobs. So students, of our high school students have had to pick up jobs in order to help their families. So they were not as engaged. But what it did allow for us to do is say, Columbus, we have to reach out to our families. That is our responsibility. So we have a campaign now, a campaign Knock on Doors, where we're sending our security staff out to our homes of those students that have not been engaged. We're making sure families, if you need more Chromebooks, we were given one per household, and our family said, oh no, superintendent, I have 3 students, I need 3 Chromebooks. So we've had to shift to make sure that unless our students, their basic needs are met, they're not going to be engaged in learning. So we have focused on making sure that we prioritize that. And then with our teachers, making sure that they have other lessons. They're introducing protocols, that they're checking on their students in the morning. They may open up and say, how was your day? How are you feeling? So they've had to integrate some other things into their lesson to make sure they're staying connected with their students and connected with their families. So yes, as Superintendent DeMaria stated, we expected to see a drop because we were focused on making sure our students' needs were met, not that they were taking that test. And we know that we're going to have to build a strategy to make sure that our students have those content and and be able to master our the lesson that we're teaching. But that was not our priority. But we are building that up through our summer programs for this summer and for next year.
Thanks for that thorough and thoughtful answer. And I want to come back to this in a moment. But Amy, are there other questions from the audience?
We do. The next one is about testing. The continuing changes in the required testing and the importance of it to students and districts has been such a struggle for teachers over the past 10 years. How can we rethink the use of testing to better measure what we need it to measure, student progress, and not as a label of student and district failure?
So I'll take a crack at that at the outset. I mean, I think the questioner creates the exactly correct juxtaposition, because in some ways, the very last sentence of the question is more about the use of test data, to judge and rank, rather than the value of test data to inform both district and state, policy decisions and approaches. And I think that could be perhaps, as I talk to both others in Ohio as well as my colleagues in other states, there's a deeper understanding, especially now during this period when educational experience has been disrupted, is that we should not be relying on assessment data to support, sort of this judging and ranking and sometimes other even more drastic terms in terms of schools. What we should do, though, is learn from them. That's why the data that was analyzed around fall testing has value. The data that will come forth from other assessment experiences has value. And we should continue to embrace and look at that data for what it means. At the same time, there's a lot of discussions across the country, and this includes, among the new people at the Department of Education at the federal level, about are there better and different ways to gauge what students know and are able to do, to allow them to demonstrate the knowledge that they've acquired that isn't so much of a standardized test approach as it is more integrated into the daily classroom experience. I fully expect to see more thought-provoking work done in the assessment arena in the years to come, because I think educators are realizing that needs a lot of attention. At the same time, having good data to understand what knowledge students have acquired and to use that to inform instruction, to give us feedback about new approaches that we're trying, that is going to continue to be important. And we need to be diligent about that, because assessments emerged from an equity imperative. We need to always remember that certain students were being underserved, and the assessments allow that to be called out. And we need to not lose sight of that goal as part of the assessment protocols.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, I think two key words that he stated was formative and informative. That's key. How do we using data to inform our next steps? And that's very different. Yeah, we don't want to continue to sort kids. I mean, that's part of the process. We understand that. But how can we use formative assessments to inform our decisions and what's best for our students? And I believe that whole child focus allows us to do that and do that better. Again, it goes back to that customizing. And having our students co-design. That's what we're calling it. They're going to be they're going to be the architects in their own learning. Students should have some say. When our students come back, they should be able to tell us, well, I think I would like to take math online, but I want to be face to face for, reading and science, perhaps, right? And I think that's the power of it. And then we can use portfolio assessments. We can do all different types of assessments to see if students reach mastery. Think about a student that's on an online platform right now that's self-paced, right? They could have accelerated 2 to 3 years. Now we bring them back in their third grade class and they spend third grade online, second grade online. Those students will probably be ready academically for fifth grade. So how do you accelerate students and customize exactly what they need and use formative and informative information to make those decisions?
So you're both describing a very compelling world in which you can tailor education to the individual student's needs. And yet we all know that there are patterns across groups. And so the assessment that I just mentioned earlier also looked at the impacts across racial categories and found that Black students in the study, their performance was lower than other categories of students. So that third of a year lost on average expands to half a year lost for Black students. As you think about this world that you're envisioning where we can better tailor to the individual student's needs, how do you account for things like race and socioeconomic status and other categories that explain, that have been shown to demonstrate there are differences?
So, the data has shown, and has shown for a long time, the phenomenon of the achievement gap. There's no rational basis for why all students can't reach the highest levels of performance. And yet, as we dig into these issues, we understand those phenomena that work both in schools and throughout society. Issues of implicit bias, issues of trauma in students' lives, issues of adverse childhood experiences, issues of discrimination of any number of varieties. And increasingly, we're achieving a deeper understanding of those phenomenon and beginning to do more to actually correct them and understand that those realities that these students can achieve at higher levels. And we're seeing lots of training around implicit bias, how to overcome implicit bias, how to address microaggressions, how to make sure that the experience is both complete with high expectations, but also culturally relevant practices that are responsive to students' interests and creating an engaging environment. Because I think ultimately, if a student isn't really engaged in that classroom experience, in that learning transaction, they're not going to learn. And we have done a disservice many times by not making it engaging, by speaking to the cultural realities and the issues that are of importance to students as they want to learn and grow.
Yeah. And I think to take it one step further, we need policy reform. If we keep leaving it up to the individual districts, and we have, I think it's going to be more challenging for some districts than others. And the only way I believe that you're going to be able to sustain it is to have some policy reform. And I think that educational policy reform just has to call it out and say that we need to make sure we're thinking about the impacts of poverty, the disparities, all of those things that we're going to have to take account for. Because right now we're seeing that every district is addressing it differently, based on their communities. But I don't think that's the best approach. I think we say, you know what? We need policy reform and we need it immediately so that districts like Columbus City Schools, who know that we have different challenges than some of my neighboring districts, we both have kids who can reach their potential, but they're kids that are coming from different circumstances, more so in my district than maybe than others. But we're still held to the same standards, right? And not that our kids can't reach it. And I'm not going to say, I don't want to, give pity for my students. My students can achieve just as much as another student can and more. I just want to make sure there's a level playing field. And I think policy reform and us really thinking about, now we've had this pandemic, now we've been able to see the needs of our students from a family perspective. They have been learning online. They've not had the engagement and nurturing that they've needed. Remember, our students spend more time in the classroom than they did at home, and that has been reversed. And now we have our teachers, our family members who are saying, hey, superintendent, I didn't go to school to do this. I'm doing the best that I can. But we come out of this, and then what are going to be the standards that we're still going to be faced? Right. And if we don't do some big, bold policy reforms, you're going to see districts like me and the other big 8 urban districts still facing the same challenges because we've not made some big, bold decisions or reform that I believe that is needed.
Let's turn back to the well of good audience questions. Amy, are there additional questions?
Absolutely. The next one, one of the most concerning trends in United States public education is the looming retirement of a large portion of educators and the limited number of new educators or future educators to replace them. COVID has undoubtedly accelerated that trend. How can we ensure that every student has quality professional educators in the future? What needs to happen to ensure that there are enough educators in the future?
Well, you know what? We see a big uptick of people wanting to go in the nursing field. That is so refreshing. All these people want to be nurses. I hope that people now are saying that we need more teachers. And we, for Columbus, we're going to have to start recruiting and have our grow your own programs and look at how do we have people in our organization that may be a classified member of our team that wants to become a teacher, and how can we help them and incentivize them getting some experiences to move to a teacher position, and also work with our local colleges and universities and build that pipeline. That is so important that we build a pipeline of people in this field. And then I think the third thing is we have to make sure that the teaching profession is a priority and is seen as a top level profession. I remember years ago, and I had an opportunity to travel to Finland. And oh my gosh, teachers in Finland are just revered. They're like, oh my gosh, you're an educator. Bow down to you. And we have to do that in the United States to see that our teachers are important. If anything that we all have in common, I tell my organization now, the 2 things we all have in common is one, we all came through HR in our organization. And the second thing, we all had a teacher. So if we all had a teacher, how come the teaching profession is not seen as those of doctors and lawyers, et cetera? So I think we have to shift and make sure that position is paid more, given more, all of those things that we see that other top professions get. We have to make sure that we are saying in this country that the teaching profession is a top profession that we want to make sure that we can sustain in the United States.
It's interesting to me because right at the beginning of the pandemic, the respect of teaching surged upwards. I saw so many social media posts about, now that I know what teachers are expected to do, given that my child is now home with me, teachers ought to be paid $1 million a day. Teachers are great. You really saw, and I think we've missed that. I think there's a lot of respect and trust that was eroded over time from my vantage point, no really apparent reason. And that new renewed recognition of the job that teachers perform and the value they add to a child's life, to that child's pattern of growth and development and transitions into future success. What a powerful role that is. And we all have to commit to elevating the teaching profession on a continuing basis. I try to do so much of that because I am awed. It's really one of those things that I'm awed by the commitment, the dedication, the creativity, the innovation, the patience, the tolerance, the love, and the care. Teachers, that I talk to aren't in it for the money, but they do need to make a living. So there's always that aspect of it. But they're there to make a difference, and boy, what a difference they make. And we also have to be sensitive to the clutter that we add to a teacher's life. I've heard some teachers really experiencing the fatigue during the pandemic because they're trying to juggle teaching on face-to-face with teaching remotely. How can we simplify those responsibilities, make those responsibilities, amplify the power and the value they bring to the learning experience so that it doesn't have to be a stressful experience, but at the same time, they can leverage their professional training to really allow students to grow and learn and reach a level of success. We're seeing the same as the questioner has noted, reductions in the number of teachers in our colleges of education. We're trying to do some things to amplify that. We also want to bring more diversity to the teaching corps. I think this is another challenge. I know Superintendent Dixon sees that in Columbus, because we want to make sure all kinds of students see all kinds of teachers and have a deeper understanding of those models and the fact that that's a legitimate profession. When students have a bad experience in schools, it doesn't really inspire them to become teachers. And so what we need to do is make sure that every student has an excellent experience as part of their school and that we promote teaching as a great profession because it is so fulfilling, satisfying, and a great career to have.
So there's all of these topics that you guys are talking about. We could devote entire hours just to them. So that I forgive audience members. I know there's lots of questions, but I do want to spend little bit of time here looking, as you guys are both starting to do, towards the future. This panel is the future of K through 12 education. So I want to hear from you. You mentioned sort of towards the beginning that this has been, both of you, a sort of year of learning and experimentation. What do you see as the key things that you've learned during this time that will continue post-pandemic? What are the great experiments that have delivered value that you think are worth holding on to as we get past the acute stage of the pandemic?
So I'll start with a few that I've already referenced. I mean, I think the whole customization of the learning experience and the personalization with emphases on mastery, achieving mastery, achieving competency. But also I'm a big fan of, emerging models of learning that are more integrated, project-based learning. We have these artificial divides. Well, in this period, you're in English class, and then now you're in social studies class. Here you're in math class, and now you're going to be in science class. Well, there's a lot of math in science. There's actually a lot of reading in science as well. There's a lot of, math and social studies, looking at statistics or using data to support, social factors that may be understudied. So I've seen some great examples, and I think this worked actually in a remote setting where it was many disciplines integrated around a certain project that brings more relevancy. It can be more engaging, and you actually have a lot stronger and more enduring learning experience. So all those different aspects, I think, have come out of the pandemic, and yet I think there are those tendencies for people to want to go back to the way things were. And I tell people, some of that is okay, but we really need to push ourselves because even in the past, pre-pandemic, there were too many students that weren't reaching those levels of success that we know they can reach, and that with better pedagogical approaches, better instructional materials, and better configurations of the learning experience, we know they can accomplish.
Yeah. And I would say ditto to all of that. And we have seen an increase of students who were not engaged prior. Now they're on an online platform. They don't have to be in the classroom, disengaged when they come to school, and they are soaring through this platform. So that's a good thing. As I stated before, we're going to see co-designers of this work. We're going to see students that are taking charge of the way they believe they learn best. And we're going to have to make sure we're open to that type of design. It's seeing something new. It's the beauty of not being in the classroom since last March. For some of us, hopefully we forget some of our bad habits and really kind of think of, wow, this is really an innovative way that we can do this. Prior to the pandemic, we had partnered with Battelle for Kids, and we had embarked on a portrait of a graduate. What are our hopes and dreams and aspirations for students of Columbus City Schools? So we were able to design 6 attributes that we want to see our students, our 6 competencies that we want to see our students have when they graduate. So what we're doing now, we've already partnered with Columbus State, and we're designing that work. So how can we make sure that our students have empathy, that they're critical thinkers, that they're using technology to leverage their learning, they're creative, they can communicate, all of those things that we're going to have embedded in our new way of learning and our new way of leveraging education for our students. So we're excited about it. We're excited about the planning. We're excited about all these opportunities that we now see they're more important than ever. So I think for us, it was like an awakening to see that students in our organization have a lot of challenges. But if we provide for them a good, solid educational foundation, they can become whomever they want to become. And I think the sense of urgency is now more than ever because we've had a chance to look in their homes and see, oh my gosh, that little Talisa, she may be a little spry, but oh my gosh, I can channel those energies and make sure she becomes that scientist, right? So I think that's something that we're excited about doing it, and we get to do it together with our students and with our stakeholders, providing those experiences for our students. And last thing, our students have to see beyond the classroom and beyond their neighborhoods. And unless we are providing those opportunities for our students, they can't be what they don't see. So making sure that they see beyond their classrooms, beyond their communities, so that they understand why a good educational foundation is good for them and how it can leverage them to unlimited opportunities.
I'm sure there are lots of questions left. I want to see if we can't get to a couple more from the audience before we bring this to a close. Amy, are there others that you would tee up?
There are. So this is for Superintendent Dixon. Could Columbus City Schools bring back 6 through 12 for 2 days a week if they only had to bus charters, parochials, and privates for 2 days a week as well? And what is the state doing to ease this inequity?
Yes, well, we would love to have all of our students back. And yes, so once we get more teachers vaccinated, because we look at our research and it states that the younger students, you're seeing less spread in our schools with our younger students. And we know that with some of our older students, to think about the ages of our older students, we want to make sure that our students are adhering to those social distancing guidelines. And again, remember, our classrooms we have a lot of students, and we want to make sure that when they walk in those classrooms, they are 6 feet apart, they have their PPE on, et cetera. So we know that would happen. So if we can work out some other transportation options for our students, we're currently working with CODA. So we also have that as an option for our students. But remember, CODA has limited ridership as well. So they are limited to, I think, about 20 to 25 passengers on a bus too. So we are working to bring our secondary students back as we are adhering to the guidelines. As more people are vaccinated, I believe that we're going to see some changes with the CDC. And that will allow us to bring more of our students back.
Amy, let's see if we can squeeze one more question in there from the audience.
All right, one more. Many teachers and administrators are very nervous about state testing this spring, knowing their students are woefully unprepared this year. At least one bill in the Ohio legislature calls for canceling the spring tests again this year. Superintendent DeMaria, are you in favor of canceling the tests? If not, how will the results be used, as simply diagnostic or as evaluations, with all the ramifications scores might have for teachers and districts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to start by, I'm a bureaucrat in the work I do, and so I'm going to give a little bit of a bureaucratic answer, but then I'll give you my personal opinion. It really starts with the federal government. The federal government has not signaled that they are open to allowing states to waive testing requirements. The reason we have the assessment system that we have in place here in Ohio is directly related to federal requirements. The only way we managed to suspend testing last year was when the federal government gave us explicit directives about that, and to date they have not done that. We have a new administration obviously coming in. I know this is on their list of issues to be attentive to, and I know at the national level there's a very vigorous debate between those who believe we need to have testing and those who believe that we should do away with it for this year. So until the federal government gives us any kind of signal, and then the state government follows, because all the federal requirements are amplified by statutory requirements in state law, we are planning and continue to plan to administer the assessments at this coming time. I personally, and I want to make sure I say personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or the department or any aspects of the administration. I continue to believe that we should have assessments, but that we should not use that data. We should, in some ways, suspend our report card system and any other uses. Because just as Dean Brown referenced this study recently completed by 2 OSU researchers, the reason that study is useful to us is because we had assessment data that could tell us what was happening to students in certain circumstances, in certain geographies, disaggregated by different characteristics. And also, if we have testing at the end of this year, it'll help us understand what happened in the context of those districts that were fully remote versus those that were able to go back, and all those different configurations. So I think that information has value, both from a state policy perspective as well as from a local district perspective, and that we should have that data and extract the value from it without using it in any kind of punitive or judgmental way in terms of accountability.
Well, thank you. That is all the time we have this afternoon. Thanks to our panelists, Dr. Talisha Dixon and Paulo De Maria, and to WOSU's Amy Palermo for monitoring the Q&A. And thanks to all of you for joining us virtually and for your engaging questions. As soon as this program ends, a screen is going to pop up asking you to take a short survey about our dialogue series. Please take a moment to share your feedback with us so we can improve future events. And we hope you'll join us on Tuesday, March 9th for our next virtual dialogue program. Visit wosu.org/dialogue for program details and registration info to come. Thank you to all of you, and have a great afternoon.